Hey guys, Ben here, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Superman Lois Season 3. We're only 2 weeks away, or a bit less than 2 weeks away from the release of Superman Lois's Season 3 premiere episode. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future DCTV videos later this year. So as I said before, Superman Lois is coming back in under 2 weeks now. Very excited to be covering the show once again. Hopefully this is not the last season. But as I'm sure many of you have seen, there's been a bunch of Superman Lois trailers and promos that they released recently. We're going to be kind of analyzing what roughly has been going on in those, and I feel like those promos are pretty consistent in terms of what they're teasing. I actually didn't get round to analyzing the trailers, so this is kind of acting as a video on that, but also I have some extra theories that I need to talk about. So in those trailers, what they are teasing is that Lois is going to be pregnant in this season. And now, obviously that's a big thing, and I don't think it's like super shocking, but obviously it would be a big shift in the family, and they would need to find a way to show this new daughter or son in a way that would work for the TV show. Babies are notoriously bad in TV shows because it's just hard to have a baby around, and it's like, why would Superman and Lois be going out doing field work when they have a baby to look after? But anyway, so Lois is pregnant and she is going to be kidnapped very early on in the season. It hasn't been confirmed what episode it happens, but it's one of the first 2 episodes or so, and this is linked to her being a journalist, which has something presumably to do with Bruno Mannheim because he is the main villain this season. So maybe she has been investigating him during the off season, and now that we're finally getting back to seeing what Superman and Lois are up to, Lois is investigating him and he gets wind of it, and that could be what's up in terms of her being kidnapped. And so according to the trailer, the only reason that Lois is actually missing is because it was during a situation where lives were at stake, so Superman had to prioritize many more lives than just Lois. Obviously he wants to save her, but basically what I'm leading towards is the fact that later in these trailers it showcases Lois in Metropolis right next to the Daily Planet, and the Daily Planet globe is actually falling down and it's about to kill Lois. We even see her scream for Clark as Superman frantically flies in to save Lois. So what happens if Lois actually is going to get killed, and what could her death mean? Well, this is pretty much exactly what they did in Injustice. So basically in Injustice, which is a comic book, but I'm sure many of you guys have played the video game or seen the animated film, Lois gets pregnant, just like in this trailer and what they're teasing for Superman Lois Season 3, and then shortly after she is killed while carrying both Clark and her baby. Lois's death sets off Superman on a path towards evil and revenge, because his life just spirals out of control. And so I think this is exactly what they are teasing in these promos that they've released. I think we are doing an Injustice storyline. However, some of the shots in the trailers suggest, in terms of their visual effects, potentially it could be some sort of vision or nightmare, because it all looks a bit crazy and very elaborate. Like if, say, Bruno Mannheim was kidnapping Lois in order to kill her, why doesn't he just like kill her on the spot rather than doing something so elaborate? Plus also at this point, as far as we know, we don't think that Bruno Mannheim has a proper emotional connection to Superman. So as far as I know, they don't even know each other. So why would he kidnap Lois in order to get at Superman? It just doesn't make much sense. And so if the scene where Lois is screaming as the Daily Planet globe falls down is in actual reality, that surely would be in a later episode, because as I said, that is heavily elaborate. Like, who would do that? I could imagine someone like Lex doing that, but as far as I'm aware, Lex isn't going to show up until later in the season. So I do think there's a high possibility that it could be a nightmare, especially since she's kidnapped and then maybe Clark goes home, he's asleep, he's all alone, and he imagines what could be happening in terms of Lois being out there kidnapped and not being home. And so maybe he has this nightmare and then he rushes to try and save her. So what do you guys think about this theory? I feel like most people is going to agree with me in terms of it being an Injustice story. I don't believe that Lois is actually going to straight up die. I think this will be a nightmare, but she is clearly at risk considering that she has been kidnapped, and that is in reality in maybe the first couple of episodes or so. But let's move on to talk about the second part of this video. So this topic is actually a theory. Now this is something that I've talked about a couple of times in the past. Last season we got to see Lana Lang from Bizarro World. She was this kind of evil superwoman and she seemingly had powers. We presume she was Kryptonian, but there's always the chance that she was given powers. And considering that that was an actual alternate version of Lana Lang, that means out there in the multiverse there is more versions of herself where she does have Kryptonian-like powers. And so my main question for the future in regards to Lana Lang and her stories, are we ever going to go back to something like that? And I feel like the answer to that is probably yes. Right now, they are clearly focusing on the relationship between her and her family, and obviously her relationship with Clark and Lois and everyone else. That's a big factor. However, they got to keep things interesting. And if they do get another season, or even a season beyond that, say up to season 5, they're going to be trying to innovate in different ways in terms of their storytelling. They're not going to strictly follow the comics, but they may take inspiration from the comics, as we've been seeing over the course of Superman Lois. And so with her last season being this evil superwoman, could we ever see a good superwoman and her actually gaining powers? I would say it's very slim in terms of Lana from Superman Lois's Earth to actually get powers, because I don't see any kind of possibility unless she was artificially given powers, because she's a straight up human, she's not a Kryptonian, and there is nothing to suggest that Superman would be able to give her powers. So I'm going to say probably not in regards to her becoming like a superhero or some sort of vigilante. However, another version of the character from another Earth could theoretically at one point show up, and they're a different version of the character and they're good and they have superpowers. As I've discussed before in the comics, Lana isn't the only one who is Superwoman. Superwoman has been shown in various different iterations in the comics, and actually Lois Lane has been Superwoman many times. So let me read out the first time that Superwoman actually appeared in the comics, because it's very interesting and something like this could definitely happen. It's very possible. So Superwoman was first introduced to DC Comics in 1943 with a story in Action Comics number 60, where Lois Lane dreams that she has gained superpowers from a blood transfusion from Superman and launches a career as Superwoman. So that's definitely a possibility in terms of something potentially happening to kickstart someone becoming Superwoman. And again, it could be anyone, and we've seen this many times before with Lex and the way that he gives Superboy powers. Obviously Superboy is a clone in the comics and in Young Justice as well. So this is an actual scientific way of potentially altering someone's DNA in order to give them the powers of someone like Superman, who is a Kryptonian. So this is definitely a feasible way to give someone superpowers. So whether it be Lois Lane or Lana Lang, that's been done before, so it's not too far-fetched. And as I mentioned, there's been times before where Lois has actually been given superpowers from one of Lex Luthor's inventions, and at many times later in various different tales and stories throughout DC Comics' history, Lois has been given powers as Superwoman. And even as recent as 2016 in the comics, Lois again became Superwoman in DC Rebirth. And to explain a little bit about this, in this new timeline, Lois and Lana gained superpowers due to the solar energy explosion caused by the death of the New 52 Superman. So the death of this New 52 Superman caused his powers to basically explode and absorb into both Lois and Lana, who both become different versions of Superwoman, with Lois possessing all of Superman's powers while Lana has the ability to absorb solar radiation energy and release it in other forms. And actually in this comic, Lois was later seemingly killed, just like kind of what's going on here. So it really does make you wonder, what comic book storylines are they taking from? Is there any potential for a Superwoman who is good in the future? Yes, I would say there's definitely a chance, because as I've mentioned throughout this video, there's been many times in the past that Lois or Lana have become actually a version of Superwoman, and we've seen the bad version of Superwoman, that being Lana Lang, show up last season. So why not, if we have future seasons, if we have more episodes, they could definitely do this at some point and they're always going to be looking for new ways to introduce different types of Kryptonians, different types of people with different powers. That's just a thing that a show like Superman Lois or The Flash does. Like, just look at The Flash, they have so many speedsters. They're always introducing new speedsters. So if Superman Lois doesn't end at the end of season 3, which is obviously very much so up in the air right now, I'm going to say the likelihood is yes, it's just going to be going up and up and up. But for now, we can look forward to what we already know, and that is they are doing an Injustice storyline to do with Lois and Clark. Will Lois actually die? That is the main question. And how will Clark potentially save her? And is that scene from those trailers actually a nightmare or reality? Because if that is reality, that is absolutely crazy. I can't believe what is going on right there, because the whole Daily Planet globe is literally falling down on her. Who has the power to pick it up and throw it off the roof? I don't even think Bruno Mannheim has the abilities to do that, because he's just a criminal. He's not a super villain. So it makes you wonder who else could potentially be working with Bruno Mannheim if this is actually the case. So that pretty much does it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. We're uploading daily right now, so don't miss out on anything, and get hyped for Superman Lois season 3, which is going to be premiering in under 2 weeks, and we're going to have plenty of coverage to do with the show as it airs season 3. So for now, click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.
I see red.